Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we've got quite a few news stories to go over, a few movies and games that I've played that we're going to talk about, and then we are going to talk about two things in full spoilers. We're going to be talking about the last episode of Moon Knight and a beverage.
Yes.
Let's kick things off with On Beat. On Beat is, of course, our news segment. Our first story, Square Enix has sold most of their Western studios and IPs to the Embracer Group. This is I think they're like a Nordic company, and they own Gearbox, THQ Nordic, Deep Silver, 3D Realms, and some others already. And now they've bought Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, which is, I'm sure, going to be renamed.
I would think.
Yeah. All of those have been sold, and that includes properties like Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, and Thief, and it was sold for $300 million.
As well as Gex. Can't forget Gex.
Gex as well. That's going to be for $300 million. Square is still going to be keeping some properties. Life is Strange, Just Cause, and Outriders among them. And they are also keeping their Square Enix Collective, which is for like indie games. And they said that they want to use the money that they're getting from the sale to invest in AI, cloud, and blockchain, which just sounds like buzz terms that somebody fed the executives at Square Enix.
Yeah. They're going to invest in AI and blockchain just as NFTs are collapsing.
Yeah.
Real big brain move from Square Enix.
And cloud, because apparently Kingdom Hearts did really well on Switch.
By cloud, they mean Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. They're going to invest hard into him.
Cloud's the one that's trying to get them into NFTs.
Yeah.
He's the guy that shows up at the party and starts like talking about NFTs to everybody. He's Butters in that South Park post-COVID thing.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people point out $300 million is especially low considering the other sales that we saw, the prices for other recent sales.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about how crazy that is, Rise of the Tomb Raider, when Microsoft got that as a full 1-year exclusive for the Xbox, they paid $100 million for that exclusivity deal.
Yeah, and now this is like the exclusivity of the entire franchise, plus a bunch of studios, plus a bunch more IPs, you know?
Yeah, for like $300 million. Yeah.
It sounds just like a bad deal. Honestly, though, I don't like any of those games.
It sounds like Square was desperate to offload these studios. I'm not gonna say I like Tomb Raider. I like the Thief games. Well, the ones that, besides the new one they put out, which was fucking awful. I like the Tomb Raider games. I like Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, but they will never make a new one of those, so.
Not only do I not like any of the games, but until they brought up the point about AI, cloud, and blockchain, I was like, good, get back to focusing on like JRPGs and shit. Yeah, that's what Square Enix is supposed to be, you know? And then they said, I was hopeful actually. And then they said AI, cloud, and blockchain, and I went, oh, fuck. I'm like, I guess not. I guess I don't have reason to be excited from this move, but yeah, they're just unloading their Western companies. And, you know, I think that part's not necessarily a bad idea. I think that it kind of diluted Square's like image as a company, you know, it diluted their like brand.
It didn't. No,
because that's not Square Enix. Like, to me, it's like,
they mismanaged those studios. Like,
yeah, I don't think they should have ever owned them, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that those companies shouldn't have existed. Right. I'm saying they shouldn't have been Square Enix, you know, like, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know, if you went and, there was like Mountain Dew branded cat food or something, you know, it's like, that's not your lane. Your lane is soda, you know, stick to your fucking lane. You know? It's like Square Enix. Your lane is like Japanese character and story-based games, mostly RPGs. That's your lane. Stay in that lane, you know? But I don't know. I've heard a lot of negative stuff about Square Enix recently. Who's the guy behind like Nights into Dreams and that really bad Square Enix game?
Oh, yeah.
Yuji Naka, is it?
Yuji Naka, yeah.
He came out recently and was like commenting about Square Enix being like a really bad company that doesn't care about games or game makers, and saying that like the reason Bell and Wonderworld was so bad is because they put it out unfinished. Like there was a lot of design choices that they hadn't even solidified yet, and then they took it away from him and just kind of put it out.
Yes.
So there's been stuff making Square Enix seem like they've gone like a bit too corporate. And then also hearing them say AI, cloud, and blockchain just sounds like corporate buzzwords too. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I've actually been enjoying some of Square Enix's smaller properties, so like Octopath Traveler. So maybe
we're going to hear more about that later in the podcast too.
Yes.
Okay. So the next story, Jon Watts exited Fantastic Four, said he needs a break from doing superhero movies, and that's reasonable. He did 3 Spider-Man movies. Yeah. We're back to
including
that.
a really big one, that the last one was really huge.
Yeah, really huge. A lot of moving pieces. I can understand him being a little exhausted by that and wanting to do something else. Kind of like the Russos
stepping away after Endgame,
Yeah, so Marvel will just have to find another director for that film.
Yeah, hopefully somebody that kind of gets the right vibe for it,
Yes, exactly.
I was telling you before we started, like the one that popped into my mind, and he's not like known as a film director, he's a TV director, but he did episodes of Lost, he did some episodes of Game of Thrones, and that's Jack Bender.
I think the tone should definitely be more similar to The Incredibles than typical Marvel fare.
Yeah, you could, that would be one way to do it. Who's the guy that did The Incredibles? He did a bunch of the Pixar stuff, and
yes.
I'm trying to remember his name. He might be another good example. He's done live action stuff too. It hasn't been too terribly successful. He did, I think, Tomorrowland, I think he directed that.
Brad Bird? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's Brad Bird. Yeah, maybe Brad Bird would be a good option. I don't know. So that is Jon Watts exiting Fantastic Four. It's sad because I think he fit well with what they were kind of going for, but it's understandable.
It's understandable.
It takes up a huge chunk of their lives, and
so Blake Lively to make her directorial debut with Edgar Wright's adaptation of Brian Lee O'Malley's Seconds, apparently about a restaurant owner and head chef who gains the power to rewrite reality and abuses it. Sounds like a neat premise. Obviously, I like Scott Pilgrim, which was Brian Lee O'Malley's previous work, and Edgar Wright directed that film adaptation. Edgar Wright is not directing this. Obviously, but outside of that, like what I just read, I know nothing about this. So
this is going to be Blake Lively's directorial debut, so there's nothing we can know about how that's going to go because she has no other works to look at. The only thing we can judge is her impeccable taste in men.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds interesting. It might be interesting. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah.
See how that develops.
Next up, Alex Winter and Patton Oswalt are set to appear in the Netflix sci-fi martial arts drama film, Absolute Dominion.
The first thing you think of when you think of martial arts is Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, and Alex Winter.
Yeah.
It's about a martial arts tournament for control over religion in the future. It takes place in 2085. It's a world in which religious war is just decimated.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is a comedy.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a comedy or if it's going to be like kind of really stylish dystopian.
The fact that they cast Alex Winter and Patton Oswalt suggests something more bonkers and like a straight faced like.
I can't see it being like a goofy comedy. Like if it's a comedy, it's probably going to be like a really dark comedy. I don't know. It didn't say anything about it being a comedy in the article I read on it, so no idea. This next one is a comedy though, and that is that the creators of Cobra Kai, John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Heald, they're going to be making an action series called Obliterated for Netflix. This was originally going to be made for TBS, but TBS is kind of moving
their
away
own
from scripted.
Yes, so TBS, for those who don't know, Discovery merged with Warner Brothers, and Discovery just recently announced that they are moving away from scripted programming on TBS and other Turner networks.
TNT, yeah.
Yeah, and so, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is about a special forces team. They find a bomb and deactivate it, and then they have this huge party, just sex, drugs, and, alcohol, and they're just all completely wasted. And then while they're in this revelry, they find out that the bomb that they deactivated was just a decoy, and the real one is still out there. And now they have have to find that real bomb and deactivate it, and they're just all fucked up. And this is listed as an action comedy, and from the creators of Cobra Kai, so that's fitting, you know?
Right, yeah.
I think it's kind of a hilarious premise, the idea of just huge stakes and then just people that are just in the worst possible position to be handling that. So yeah, that looks good to me. Next up, Viola Davis is set to reprise her role as Amanda Waller in a new Peacemaker spin-off series. This is not going to be run by James Gunn. We don't know how involved he is. He is going to be a producer on it, but I think that's more just like, because of it's based on his take on that part of the universe, that part of the DC universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. As
you said before we recorded, it's supposed to take place after Peacemaker. And after Peacemaker, if you've listened to our podcast or just watched the show, you know that after Peacemaker, or at the end of Peacemaker, Viola Davis's, or Amanda Waller's daughter basically exposed the whole Suicide Squad program. To Amanda Waller's shock and dismay. So this is going to follow her in the aftermath of that.
Yes.
Next up, Melissa McBride is exiting the upcoming Carol Darrell Walking Dead spin-off series. Production for that series has moved to Europe, and that was kind of I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back for Melissa McBride, where she was like, I can't do that. It's, I guess, you know, it's probably a family thing. They're
retooling it as, instead of Daryl and Carol now, it's just Daryl, apparently. I don't know. The whole spin-off seems unnecessary. I stopped watching The Walking Dead years ago.
Same.
So yeah, I barely care.
Yeah, Walking Dead lost its luster to me. It still has somewhat of a fan base though, so there's still constant projects being made trying to kind of squeeze one last drop out of it.
Yeah, they're milking it like a friggin' blood from a stone.
They're milking it like milk from a giant insect cow for butterflies.
Yeah.
Next up, the Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania are swapping release dates. So, not a lot to say here. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was ahead of schedule. Marvels was behind schedule. They flipped them in the release lineup. They already had reservations for those dates with theaters, so they just swapped them. That's what they did. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is going to come early on February 17th, 2023, while the Marvels has been delayed to July 28th, 2023. That's pretty much it. No more news really there. We have a set of cancellations that have occurred, though. That's our next story. Legends of Tomorrow and Batgirl were both canceled. Again, as you'd mentioned before, this probably has a lot to do with the Warner Brothers Discovery merger.
Yeah, because the CW beforehand, perfectly happy to just let these shows go on forever. And it's funny now to think of it, though, with the cancellation of Legends and Batgirl, that makes The Flash and Superman and Lois the only existing Arrowverse shows now, but apparently
there's more in development.
Gotham Knights has been greenlit and is going to be airing in the fall, so they'll add that, I guess. I don't know of anything else in development.
When we first started this podcast, you and I were both religiously watching all the Arrowverse shows.
Well, they started out good, especially Green Arrow, and then
and now neither of us watch any of them.
it just spiraled out of control, and it got to a point where you were just watching hoping they were going to get better to return to that level of quality, and they just progressively got worse and worse instead.
Actually, let me correct myself. When we started the old podcasts that we did before this one is when we watched it.
Yeah.
But neither of us have watched any of those Arrowverse shows in years, so there's two more cancellations not related to Warner Brothers Discovery, and that is Space Force on Netflix and Saved by the Bell on Peacock. Saved by the Bell is the one that kind of surprises me more just because it was kind of one of the more recognizable properties on Peacock.
Yeah, you don't hear too much about Peacock cancellations.
Yeah.
But I guess they're getting
They happen, but they're usually for shows that nobody even knows about in the first place.
Right.
There's a Dan Brown
It must not have
done
that well for them.
It got 2 seasons before it dropped, so I don't know.
Then Space Force, I saw that coming. You know what's bad when, nobody talks about it barely and Netflix never brings it up or mentions it? When they're bragging about their shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Netflix is tightening their belt.
Yeah, exactly. So the signs were there all along.
And then lastly...
I assure you, Disenchantment will get a cancellation announcement at some point.
Yeah, that's due.
Yeah, that's due.
And then lastly, we have some trailers to talk about. First up, Chippendales Rescue Rangers. You are not excited about this. I am.
I what I see, like, just doesn't look good to me. I don't know.
I think it looks interesting because it's like Lonely Island's making it, and it looks like Lonely Island were like, you know what was awesome? Who Framed Roger Rabbit was awesome.
Yes.
Let's make our own Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And that's what this looks like. It isn't the plot that Chippendales Rescue Rangers follow. It's like a meta plot. So apparently Rescue Rangers was a show within
If they called it something other
movie.
than Rescue Rangers, it probably would have been fine, but Rescue Rangers 3 brings different expectations, and also the humor's not really landing with me in this, but it could just be the way the trailers are cut, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited just because I really loved, like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I'm kind of hoping this will do some kind of interesting, cool stuff. And I like meta stories, so I'm interested to see what they'll do with it. It could just end up being a bunch of baseless, stupid references that nobody cares about and not be worth watching. Or it could be good. Don't really know. But that's going to be coming up. And then Weird, the Al Yankovic story, dropped the trailer as well. The first trailer for this one.
It looked good. I want to see more.
It didn't really give a lot of, like, what they're doing with it. It kind of was more, I described it to you when we were talking about it earlier, as kind of like mood pieces, you know? Like, it's like, well, let's just establish, like, this is what it looks like when he's on stage, and this is what it looks like when he's at home, kind of. These little kind of brief vignette moments, but they're not like, there's nothing, like, actually showing any real plot direction for what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
You're just kind of getting a few tonal cues, you know? But I mean, I really like the idea of this story of like kind of like a fake biopic about a real musician, you know? I think that's funny. And then lastly, the most epic trailer of all time, coming from some Chinese company. I have no idea what it is. Land Shark, the ultimate movie.
Land Shark is fantastic. Oh man, that looks great. That is
China's answer to Sharknado.
Yes. I was gonna say that is some A-tier Sharknado type goodness. It looks like a fun movie. What can you say?
Yep, and that's it for our trailers. Let's move on to our On Tap segment. What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap. On Tap is where we talk about stuff that one of us has, or both of us have been watching or playing. This time it's all kind of stuff that I've been doing the last couple of weeks as we've been busy with other stuff and haven't been able to get to. But now I want to kind of address some of it. So first off, a few movies. I saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. If you don't know, this is like a meta movie about Nick Cage, where Nick Cage is playing Nick Cage, and he gets invited to an island owned by this person who's apparently like a drug lord. That's kind of what they're leading you to believe, or like a cartel boss or something.
Played by Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, who's excellent in everything he does.
Yes.
Even if the movie sucks, he's good in it, which is not the case here. But the main thing I can say about Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is it is exactly what you expect if you watch the trailer. If you watch the trailer and you're like, oh, that looks pretty fun, but I don't know if they're going to be able to carry that out for, you know, the full length of the movie and still make it good or something. They do. They do carry it out. They keep it good. If you watched that thing and said, that looks pretty good as a starting point, but I hope it goes somewhere more interesting, it doesn't. It is exactly what it portrays itself to be. Nothing more, nothing less.
That's good, because I love the movie in the trailer.
So if that looked interesting to you, then I think you'll enjoy the movie. And then just today, I watched The Northman, which is the new Eggers movie, starring Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
The one from True Blood, which I tricked a friend jokingly and he fell for it, where I'd said, because in True Blood, his character's name was Eric Northman and he was like a Viking before he was turned into a vampire.
Yes, yeah.
And his last name in that, like I said, literally was Northman. So I tricked a friend. I said, yeah, did you know this was a prequel to True Blood?
And they fell for it?
Yeah, I fell for it.
Robert Eggers does True Blood.
Yeah. But, yeah, it is not a prequel to True Blood. to answer that, it is a story about a Viking who witnesses his father get killed, and he swears revenge, and he goes away as a child. He goes away, and then he comes back, and he's like this absolutely insane, like berserker, like Viking that's just like hugely formidable and really scary.
Right.
And he comes back kind of to get his revenge on this guy who killed his father and to take back his legacy. And what's interesting about this movie is that it goes into the idea of like Norse mythology as like a religion for these people, but it doesn't portray it as either 100% like mystical, nor does it portray it as like just a historical account where like the religion is just part of the customs that these people do, but they're not portraying it as real. Like they're portraying it as real, but they're just not going over the top with it, which makes it kind of interesting in its thing. You know, usually when you see a movie like this, they're kind of going more of the realism, and for them to kind of dive into more of the supernatural aspects, but then keep those kind of subdued at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Is kind of creates like an interesting mood for everything. Besides that, it's just a bunch of really terrible people doing terrible things to each other and some really, really cool, flashy cinematography, really cool editing, and some amazing kind of fight scenes and stuff, and like long shots, like long camera takes where you see like, you know, whole scenes that go through with a single take. Yeah, it's really cool, really gory, really violent, really stylish. It's not quite as esoteric as like The Green Knight, but it's much more so than like a lot of like, you know, if you see like a lot of the modern like King Arthur movies or something besides Green Knight where they try to kind of make it realistic or something, it's not like that at all. Like it is kind of going into Norse mythology as if it's real, which makes it kind of entertaining. Next up, I finally finished Triangle Strategy. Took me just, you know, about 120 hours or so. And about probably 70 plus of those hours were just straight grinding. I mean, I guess I could have gone down to a lower difficulty level, but it's not so much that the game was hard or that the battles were hard that I had to grind, so much as that it was like kind of impossible. Like you would basically, enemies would one hit you. And so you'd have to grind so that you wouldn't get taken out with a single hit when your enemy's turn came up. But then when you grind, you're limited on what battles you can grind. And very quickly you end up not really getting much experience at all. So you're getting like one experience for like an action. So like you kill an enemy, you get one experience. You kill like 8 enemies at the same time with an area of effect spell, you get one experience. When you're either at the same level as them or above, it's pretty much you get nothing almost for anything you do. And that makes it really frustrating because you can't just fight hard enemies to try to grind up your levels. You're stuck fighting the ones that are provided to you, which are usually significantly lower than the next battle in the story that you're supposed to face. So like the recommended level for the next fight in the story will be like level 25. And the recommended level for the highest level mock battle you can do will be like level 20. So if you even want to be at the recommended level, you have to grind against these enemies that are giving you like one experience when you're killing them. And since it's a tactical game, it's like fights take a long time by the very nature of a tactical game, because you're not just like taking turns like JRPG style fighting. You're having to like move your character around after enemies and stuff. You have to clear past obstacles, get around different elevations and stuff. So there's all this shit you have to do just to get to enemies to kill them. And then you get almost no experience when you're killing them, and that's the only way you can grind. So that's kind of like my big gripe with this game. I'm thinking about doing a New Game Plus, which starts you off with like a lot of the items that you had and stuff, but doesn't start you off at the same level or with the same party members. I'm thinking of going back in, doing a New Game Plus, and just setting the difficulty level very low to see if that changes things, you know, or to see like how that changes things. In what way does that affect the difficulty? If the enemies are just lower level, or if they like, you know, aren't as intelligent in the way they fight. I don't know what it is, but I want to see if that solves that particular problem.
Right, yeah.
But that's Triangle Strategy. Next up, or last up, I should say, is Nintendo Switch Sports. I have played 3 of the games in Nintendo Switch Sports. I've played tennis. I played the sword fighting game. I can't remember what they call it now. It's like Chimbara or something. And I've played bowling. Those are the kind of like the 3 ones I actually really care about out of the ones that are there. They're all fun. I think they improved tennis, definitely, from what it was like in Wii Sports. Bowling feels pretty close to what it was in Wii Sports Resort. And the Chimbara feels like a lot better than the sword fighting did in Wii Sports Resort. So that's like a lot better as well. And you can kind of do mind games, which is fun and interesting for that part. So besides the actual sports, I do have a bit of a complaint, and that is in the character creation process. So you can use your Miis, but they're kind of like hidden. Like you have to go into like body options and then select your Mii. It's weird, right. Like the way you enter, like that's like further down the line. So you'd be going through like making your face and stuff going, where's the Mii options? I don't see any of the Mii options. And then you'll get past the face and you get to other stuff. You keep going down, and then you finally get to the body and you see, oh, there's the Mii option. So basically I just wasted my time trying to create this avatar and I'm just going to select my Mii now, which is kind of annoying the way they set that up. But even more annoying is that you can unlock stuff when you play like online in this game. You can unlock like accessories and clothing and stuff like that. And you can't use any of the head accessories. So you can't use like hats or masks or anything like that on your character if it's a Mii. It just feels kind of like poorly, like that aspect of it feels kind of poorly planned. Like it feels like they really didn't want to do anything with Miis, but then they kind of like at the last minute said, let's just throw Miis in there too. And that's kind of how it feels. So that part's a little bit unfortunate. But besides that, like I said, the actual game's are really fun. The music is really good. I was straight up dancing between frames of bowling.
Right, yeah.
You got some real bops in there. And yeah, there's cool stuff with the online modes. Like the way bowling works online is that you have like multiple rounds. So you have to go through your regular 10 frames of bowling that you normally would do. But like you'll start off like a bunch of online opponents and then it will like get rid of half of them. After the first 3 frames, it'll like go like the people with the worst score get eliminated, the half of them with the worst score. And then you do another 3 frames and then that happens again. And then you do another 3 frames and that happens again. And then you do your 10th frame and that's it. So
okay.
It's called survival bowling. Like that's how the online mode for that works.
Survival bowling.
So that's kind of cool and a little bit different. I kind of wish they just have a regular bowling option.
It's like Squid Game.
Yeah.
Miyamoto shoots you like after you lose.
Yeah.
Personally.
You'll see some guy in a weird mask show up in your actual house with a gun aimed at the back of your head as you're playing it. Thankfully I did well. No, actually I'd be dead multiple times over, unfortunately. But yeah, so that is it for Nintendo Switch Sports. If you like the games in Wii Sports, it's good. I mean, it's a good follow-up. If you're really into using your Mii and seeing other people's Miis everywhere and stuff, it's kind of the Mii integration is kind of an afterthought in this, unfortunately. That's the kind of negative I can bring up about this. But if you don't care about that, if you only care about kind of like old, like Wii era Nintendo music, like the Wii menu and Wii eShop and like that kind of music that that Wii games had back then, you're going to get a bunch of that in Switch Sports. Plus you're going to get those actual sports that are kind of been enhanced and improved since what you played in the previous versions.
Nice.
So that brings us to an end of our On Tap segment. So next up is our On the Horizon segment. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to start things off with Candy, which is a mini-series that comes on Monday, May 9th on Hulu. It's a true crime story about a woman who murders her friend with an axe. And it stars Jessica Biel as the titular character of Candy. So there's that. There's a lot of like true crime enthusiast type mini-series and stuff coming, apparently. We talked about some last week.
Right, yeah.
Then we have Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex, 2045, Sustainable War, an anime movie coming on Monday, May 9th on Netflix. So yeah, did you watch Ghost in the Shell or Standalone Complex or any of that stuff?
No.
I watched a little bit of the old Standalone Complex stuff. I haven't seen any of the CG stuff they're doing now, so I'm not too terribly interested. But if you're an anime fan and you're into Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex and all that, That's coming Monday, May 9th. Next up, I think you might be interested in this one. I know you put in a bid on the Kickstarter.
I did.
Yuden Chronicle Rising. This isn't the main game. This is like the sub-game
like
that was
a sub-game. I heard this was actually kind of disappointing, but I don't know.
Yeah. I have no idea what this is going to be like. This is going to be on the Switch. They're still saying that Yuden Chronicle, the main game, might not be on Switch, that it would be on a Switch successor, possibly, depending on what's
it
out
was not
time.
announced on the Kickstarter to be a Switch game, so.
Yeah, I think they wanted it to be on the Switch successor, whatever that was.
Yeah.
So that's not this. This is Rising. It's like a side-scrolling. Is it supposed to be kind of like, I don't know, kind of like a Metroidvania or something? Or what is this?
I don't know. I don't know much about this, to be honest. I know about the main game. I didn't get Rising because, like, I didn't put in for, the Kickstarter tier that comes with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what this is.
I guess I'll just wait and see what people end up saying about this. But that's coming on Tuesday, May 10th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, and Switch.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Operation Mincemeat. This is a movie. It's coming on Wednesday, May 11th on Netflix. I've mentioned this before. There's a true story about this con that Britain did against Nazi Germany, where they floated a dead body with secret British plans. And they went through all this work to try to make Germans pick up on it, find this body, collect it, think it was a legit thing, and then get the plans from this body and use them to go, okay, we know what the Brits are going to do. And they set up a counterattack, but then it works against them because it was all plot by the Brits in the first place. So this is like a movie about that con. It's interesting because one of the special agents that was involved in this plot is the guy that wrote James Bond, was one of the special agents involved in this, as was Winston Churchill was heavily involved in this. Of course, he knew about this because he came from an intelligence background as well, but it's a pretty fascinating story. So it'll be interesting to see how it's adapted as a movie.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Next up, Hacks gets its second season on Thursday, May 12th on HBO Max. Hacks is about a older female comedian who takes this kind of young female comedian under her wing, kind of begrudgingly, but they end up kind of building a friendship. I've watched most of the first season. I haven't watched all of it, but it's good. It's got Jean Smart in it. She plays the older comedian, and she's really good in it. That's coming Thursday, May 12th on HBO Max, Season 2. Then, for your Apple TV Plus fans out there, The Essex Serpent is a miniseries coming on Friday, May 13th. Has Claire Danes and Tom Hiddleston. It's set in kind of a Victorian-era setting, and it's got a weird supernatural vibe. This woman's moving into this house that apparently some supernatural being lives in.
I looked this up, and it looks like it's just a period romance with the serpent thing being window dressing. I don't know, it's disappointing. I was like, I don't want to watch the romance thing. I want fucking monsters and shit.
Ew, cooties.
I want to see Tom Hiddleston fight serpents.
Ew, cooties. I don't want that romance
cooties
stuff. Coming on Friday, May 13th on Peacock and in theater simultaneously is a new adaptation of Firestarter, the Stephen King.
I'm surprised that's in theaters. I thought that was made for TV.
It's Peacock and theater simultaneously.
Interesting.
It's a same-day release, kind of like how they did with the last Halloween movie.
Yeah, I had no idea this was supposed to be theatrical. So that's a surprise to me.
It's a new adaptation. Zac Efron's playing the father character in this one.
Right.
Yeah, Firestarter.
We live in a world now where Zac Efron is old enough to play a father. When I remember when he was playing a teenager in high school.
And you said that young buck, he'll never grow up. He'll never be a father.
It's just a reminder of the passage of time.
Yeah, we're ever creeping towards death.
Yes.
Speaking of people getting older, Kids in the Hall is coming on Friday, May 13th.
They're the adults in the hall now.
The senior citizens in the hall now.
Yeah, the senior citizens in the hall. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Coming to Amazon Prime on Friday, May 13th. Kids in the Hall was kind of the forebearer for that absurdist comedy movement that kind of was going in the 90s.
Well, they came in I remember when they came on when Comedy Central was still a new network.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they were one of the first shows on Comedy Central.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a license because it's a Canadian show that was picked up for Comedy Central.
But that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
from them. And like, I didn't actually have Comedy Central. So like, I had to see it like at other people's homes. But
I never got too much into it
new.
when it was on. I watched it afterwards and liked it more. But like, I got more into like The State, which was from the same kind of era, a little bit later on.
Yeah,
and
I never
clearly
really,
inspired by Kids in the Hall.
Right, yeah, I never really got into Kids in the Hall, so I don't know too much about that.
I remember some kids I knew in high school that were obsessed
I was
with
still
Kids
watching Saturday Night Live in the 90s. I got like the early 90s and stuff, but early 90s Saturday Night Live was good, in my opinion.
Not current Saturday Night Live.
And then I got into like Mr. Show.
Yeah.
Late 90s.
Yeah, that was kind of, Mr. Show's kind of the tail end of that weird 90s.
Yes.
Absurdist stuff. It was like Kids in the Hall, The State. Then it was like Mr. Show and the Ben Stiller Show.
Yeah, Ben Stiller
and
Show.
And the Dana Carvey Show, I think, which was like a talk show, but also had skits.
Those were not long for this world.
And Conan kind of went like along that whole stretch as well.
Yeah. Conan leaned into that as well, which is why I liked his talk show so much. I really like Conan's talk show, the only one I would actively watch, just because like I loved his comedy.
I watched Conan's talk show.
Everybody else like just tells corny jokes, and it's like okay.
I watched Conan a lot. I watched The State.
Yeah,
and I watched the Ben Stiller Show, but that wasn't long for the world. Like that went away.
Sadly, I barely remember, but I'm pretty sure like I watched one or two episodes of that before it vanished completely. But I can't remember a thing about it.
It was funny. I remember that. Yeah. I don't remember very specifics about it. But that was good. That was before Ben Stiller's film career. He was kind of unknown at the time. That's just a very specific era of comedy.
I would be lying.
You either know that or you don't. You know?
I would be lying if I said I watched Waste Kids. I just recently like discovered that stuff and got into them. But they were also like around their dead era. They're hilarious. Yeah,
which show?
Whitest Kids You Know.
That was like kind of post that, wasn't that? That was like early 2000s.
Was it? Yeah, probably early 2000s. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
they were on the independent film channel.
Yeah, it was definitely influenced by all that stuff, but I think it was like the next
maybe
kind of era after that. But yeah, man, I loved
the
that
whole
era.
absurdist movement, I have to point out, has its roots in Monty Python.
Yeah, definitely. Monty Python was kind of the originator, and then you had like Second City, and there was another one in Canada that was really big.
SCTV.
The one had, like, CTV had like Eugene Levy and stuff. That stuff influenced Saturday Night Live, but Saturday Night Live was kind of never quite as hip as those. Like it wasn't.
No, Saturday Night Live was like definitely aiming to be more mainstream with their humor.
Yeah.
So they never really got like too far into the absurdist stuff. There's some absurdist, like the Land Shark skit.
Yeah.
That I like pointed out to you. That's absurdist humor because it's a weird joke, and it's like, I listen to Conan's podcast a lot, and a lot of times if he has like a comedian on, they talk shop about comedy, and he'll tell stories about when he wrote on Saturday Night Live and stuff. And he talks about how everybody that he was really into on Saturday Night Live was competing for these, like, the last 15 minutes of the show, which is where, on Saturday Night Live, where they would let them do, like, weird absurdist stuff. Oh, okay, so
they wouldn't let them do that. Everything had to be, like, topical before that, but that last 15 minutes was like anything goes.
They could, anything goes. Just the producers didn't care with that last 15
like, that
minutes.
stuff might not even make it to air. Like, it might run late, and then that stuff just gets cut off.
Right,
you know? And so that was kind of like that. Nobody's really cares. Nobody really pays attention. Do whatever you want. And that's what, like, Conan, like, lived for. That was, like, his favorite time.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Like with his sensibilities.
That was, like, he was writing for it, and Bob Odenkirk was writing on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I didn't know Bob Odenkirk wrote for Saturday Night.
Yeah. They were, like, a bunch of writers that were,
I know, like
recognized now.
Conan O'Brien also wrote for The Simpsons.
Yeah, he went from Saturday Night Live to The Simpsons, and then to his own show, his talk show.
Yeah.
I'll use this Kids in the Hall returning on Amazon Prime on Friday, May 13th as a plug for Conan's podcast. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Check that out. It's really good. If you enjoy like comedians talking about the craft of comedy and stuff, there's a lot of that in it. It's really funny. Next up, we have Lincoln Lawyer. Remember, this was a movie with Matthew McConaughey. Well, now they're making a TV series on Netflix. It's a new adaptation. It's coming from David E. Kelley on Friday, May 13th.
Starring Owen Wilson. No, I don't know.
I don't know who's in it, but It's not Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, I have no idea what to expect on this. I saw like a trailer of it and I was like, well, yeah, it looks like the same plot as the movie, which I kind of saw trailers for too.
It's about a lawyer and
he drives a Lincoln.
Lawyer shows are David E. Kelly's bread and butter. So that's what he does.
Next up we have a game, and that is Evil Dead the game, also coming on Friday, May 13th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, and Switch, but the Switch version is not coming out on May 13th. It's got one of those typical, you see it with Switch games when there's like a multi-plat and there's a Switch version as well. You always see like also coming eventually to Switch. And that could mean like, the next month or like 2 years later.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. I'm not really into this genre of games though, so I'm not super excited about playing it. And the Switch version not being available at the same time has kind of killed it for me, I think.
Same. I'm not into this genre of game.
Yeah.
I'll be happy
if the Switch version was coming day one and people started talking about this game when it came out, I might have picked it up,
I'll be happy when they like make a horror franchise game that's actually not an asymmetrical multiplayer game. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And then lastly, on Friday, May 13th in theaters is The Innocence. This is a Nordic supernatural thriller. It's about kids that have superpowers.
I got super confused because I actually I was reading this and I actually read it as THQ Nordic supernatural thriller. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were making this game.
No. This is like a Nordic region movie. A supernatural thriller, and it's kids that they have abilities and they start like using them when their parents are away, and things just start kind of spiraling out of control. This isn't like a superhero movie. This is like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Or a supernatural thriller,
I gathered that.
But yeah, that's also coming on Friday, May 13th to theaters. And that brings an end to our On the Horizon segment. And that leaves us only with full spoilers. So this week on Full Spoilers, we're going to be talking about a beverage, and then we're going to be talking about the season or series, we don't know yet, finale of Moon Knight. Let's kick things off with the beverage. And of course, we're talking about Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot.
I'm excited to hear your opinion on this.
To everybody saying, why are you talking about a beverage on a show about games, movies, and TV shows? Why not? That's all I have to say.
It's your show. You do what you want.
So Will tried Mountain Dew Flaming Hot, about a couple months ago? A month ago? Something like that?
Probably about a month ago at this point.
Yeah, and you told me about it and you said, not great.
Yeah. First blush, not great. I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, I think this drink has kind of two aspects to it. There's the flavor of the drink and then there's the burn of the drink.
Yeah, I didn't mind the burn.
They're like completely unrelated things. The flavor of the drink just tastes like straight Mountain Dew. Like it doesn't taste any different from regular Mountain Dew.
It tasted different to me.
It didn't taste any different to me at all. It was only the burn.
It has the sweetness of Mountain Dew. The beginning of the sip tastes like Mountain Dew, but then there's a middle portion between the sweetness and the burn that was off-putting to me.
See, I didn't pick up on that at all. To me, it just tasted like regular Mountain Dew that burned my throat.
Okay,
and the burn was very specific. It was very much like a black pepper type burn.
It tastes like the same burn you get from Flamin' Hot. You eat Flaming Hot Cheetos. It's the same burn. Or at least to me, it tastes the same. So
it's very like a black pepper burn to me.
I didn't mind the burn because, I was expecting it. It's in the name. Obviously, it was going to be there. Mm-hmm. I just thought, to me, I think the idea of, a spicy soda is interesting. This certainly didn't put me off on the idea. But I think, if they could tweak it, make it, taste a little better, I think they're close to something here.
Yeah, I wasn't too much of a fan of the burn.
Maybe if you base it off an orange soda, it might work better. I don't know.
I'm just Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot Live Wire.
Yeah. They did the sour grape, do hot orange. There you go. That's perfect.
There's a brand of yogurt, regular yogurt, that I really like called Noosa. And it's really thick, dense yogurt. And it has fruit on the bottom, type stuff, but it's like fresher, more full fruit bits and stuff, bigger bits. But for a while they were doing ones where they had like spicy ones. And it was like they would combine like a fruit and like a specific type of spice. It would be like, blackberry habanero or something. They would have like a pairing like that. Right. So what you'd like to see is like Flamin' Hot Live Wire, like a direct pairing like that.
Yeah, definitely.
They could do pairings with all of them, and then just make all of those the alcoholic ones too, because they've also launched
and then like bring back Pitch Black 2 because it was awesome, and like how many?
Was that the grape one?
It was the grape one, but here's the thing: Pitch Black was great. Pitch Black 2 was the grape soda, but sour. So Pitch Black 2 added a sour flavor to it, and it was fantastic.
Unfortunately, I don't get to try a lot of these. I like trying these kind of drinks, but I just don't get them.
When they brought Pitch Black back, they brought it back as the regular Pitch Black and not the sour version.
I think you live in like Mountain Dew Central, like you live where they test all this stuff out. Because Flaming Hot just went wide, like just recently, and you had it before then. Yeah, I think that I rarely get it. Like I'll get just the big ones. Like Flaming Hot went wide, so I was able to find that. I was at a gas station and saw it. I was like,
Pitch Black 2 was like a long ass time ago. Like that was early 2000s.
Yeah. I've never seen Pitch Black 1 or 2.
I was living in Oklahoma at the time that came out.
I saw Livewire once. Like there was a summer where I could get Livewire after that summer. And this was like when it first debuted. So like 10 years ago or something?
Oh, never mind. Pitch Black 2 was apparently Halloween 2005.
Okay. And I got the Halloween flavor 1 year. 1 year we got the Halloween flavor out by us. So it's like, it's rare when we
They have Livewire here like all day, every day. Like
I can't find it at all. Like it's not in any place.
Yeah, I heard like Livewire is not nationwide. It's not available everywhere.
That's frustrating because it's like my favorite Mountain Dew flavor.
I've been lucky because Livewire was available in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. Then I moved up here to New York, and it's been available up here all the time. So I guess I've been lucky so far.
It used to be regular and Code Red were both easily available everywhere here. Then Code Red kind of disappeared, and now I can still find Code Red if I'm really looking for it, but it's like it's not everywhere.
It's weird. Not like Code Red disappeared.
And then we had Livewire, but like only that one summer, like 10 years ago, never again. And then now we have Major Melon all the time.
It's the new, it's the new permanent flavor.
And Spark we get pretty frequently. I can usually find Spark too.
Yeah, I think Spark's the newest. They just came out with that.
Yeah.
I think that's also supposed to be permanent.
I don't like Spark that much. I think it's just okay. I think
you don't like Pink Lemonade?
I like Pink Lemonade. I just don't think it works that well as a Mountain Dew flavor. Like for me.
Yeah.
I really like Major Melon.
Major Melon's my new favorite.
Red, and Livewire's, it's been so long since I've had it, but it was my favorite. But I can't get those, so unfortunately. But that's it for our spoiler on Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot. Contact us and let us know what your favorite Mountain Dew flavor is. But our last topic of the night is Moon Knight, Episode 6, Gods and Monsters, which is either the series or the season finale. We don't know yet what they're doing with it. But we get kind of a definitive wrap-up. Like, it didn't feel like it was going to be a definitive wrap-up, but then we got that post-credit scene, and then it became pretty definitive to the story that was presented in this season. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Like, just kind of base thoughts about this episode.
I thought it was a good finale.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the series. It did get a conclusion.
I think it might be the strongest finale of one of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, besides maybe Loki. Maybe Loki was around the same. But I don't think I'd overall rate it as high as like, WandaVision or something, which missed the landing completely. But while it was up in the air, it was soaring. It was amazing when it was up in the air, and then it kind of missed the landing. This it hit the landing, and it had some really good highs, but it wasn't quite as high as that to me. But yeah, I liked it. Again, Oscar Isaac's really proven himself. I don't know how much we want to say about, the plot of the episode and what happens in it.
Well, you know.
There is a cool kaiju battle between gods.
Yes, between Khonshu and Amet, which was like really awesome. Amet looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really awesome kaiju battle. Then you got like this episode, because that like reminded me the most of like a Japanese, like a Toho like production or something, because you got the superheroes like transforming and fighting, and then you got the kaijus like fighting at the same time.
You're like Super Sentai.
Like, yeah, I was like, this is very Super Sentai. Yeah.
Very much. It did feel like that, like a high budget Super Sentai.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it looked great. It performed great. I think all that worked for it. We got to see Layla gain abilities. She became an avatar for a turret.
Yes.
And she has those cool wings with the swords. That was like a cool...
Layla looked really cool in her like superhero form.
I also liked that little bit where like she saves that girl or whatever, and the girls are like, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" And she's just like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I did like. I thought that was corny. That was corny.
It was, but it was kind of
like,
cute because I liked the way she handled it, because she wasn't like yes, and she wasn't like oh, I guess, or something. Like she kind of took like a beat and then was kind of like yeah, you know, like and I thought that was kind of cool. Like that was like a little inclusive beat that I thought was kind of cool. Like, and to me, it felt just on the line of like genuine, whereas like maybe that one shot where all the females got together in Endgame, you know, that shot fell on the other side of that to me, you know.
Yeah, I just felt like it was like a corny thing, like where like they're pointing out what they're doing to like the audience, like look, we made an Egyptian superhero. It's like, yeah, I can see that. I'm watching the episode. Yeah, that's
I could see your point on it.
Came up to me, yeah.
I could see your point on that. Like logically, I could see your point on that, but like to me, the way it actually played out, it struck me as positive. Whereas, like I said, like that one beat in Endgame was very negative for me. It was very like, oh, this is garbage.
Yeah, yeah, that was very much like
girls really do get it done.
Yeah, girls get it done. Yeah, that's again like the boys parodied that, and you know
that fell on the good side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I can definitely see. I thought maybe this would be something that would have struck you as cheesy, but for me, I think it came out. I think logically, like you said, I can see the complaint for that, but like at the same time, I think it just ended up hitting right, and I think it has to do with her reaction to it, the way she was, took a beat and then was like, yeah, you know, like to me, that's what made it work.
I think like realistically, what a kid would actually say would be like, "Oh, are you a superhero?" You know, like.
Yeah, I can hear that. I get you there. I wasn't really too terribly invested in most of the Arthur Harrow stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I already was invested in, you know, what was going on with him as a threat. And then once it kind of resolved and he kind of had his way and people were dying and stuff, I was kind of like, yeah, I knew this was coming though. You know?
Yeah, like, one of the things is like, things play out pretty predictably, right? You know, Steven and Mark are resurrected, Khonshu's freed, Moon Knight returns, and they go back and they defeat Arthur and Amet. And then you get the scene where Khonshu is telling Mark to kill Arthur, and Mark won't do it, tells Khonshu to do it himself. It's a fine finale, but the most interesting thing of this episode is the post-credits scene, where we finally meet the third alter, Jake Lockley.
Oh, I love his depiction. I love the way that once he got Arthur out of the wheelchair and into the car, he kind of shoved him into the car, which I liked. And then once he was done, he kind of started like taking the wheelchair back and was just kind of like, fuck it, and just like flung it away. I just love that kind of like just brutal attitude of his. Just kind of like, just does not give a shit.
Oh, yeah. And so, real quick, I have a theory about Jake Lockley. I have a wild theory about Jake Lockley. I think Jake Lockley isn't a natural alter to Mark and Steven. I think Khonshu created Jake as a third alter that would be obedient to Khonshu.
I mean, that is, and it did play off as that, you know, like Khonshu even straight up said that Mark thought that I was after Layla. Like, I'd give a shit about Layla. Like, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
He's, I already have what I'm after, and it was Jake.
Yes. He's like, yeah, Mark thought after I didn't need him, I would go after Layla, but like, I got my man. Yeah. And, you know, and it's Jake, and Jake has no compunction about killing Arthur. It seems like
just straight up murders.
That's what, and Khonshu's there, like, that's what Khonshu wants. So it seems to me like Jake is the guy willing to do what Khonshu wants him to do. So it seems to me like my theory, what happened is Mark argued with Khonshu like enough times to where Khonshu got frustrated. It was, okay, you know, I'm going to interfere and I'm going to create an alter who will do anything I ask. and that's Jake. And that's what I think happened.
It was cool. Like, our first shot of Jake in this episode wasn't a shot. It was one of those zone out moments. And Jesus Christ, like, Mark was about to get his ass handed to him by Arthur. Layla was getting, like, beaten down by Arthur's people. And then just, like, he phases out and he wakes up and Arthur's unconscious and everybody else is, like, dead around the ground.
Yeah.
It's just like, shit, he just wiped out everyone, you know?
I thought, yeah, he just wiped out everyone. I thought Arthur was dead at that moment, but he wasn't.
Yeah, they ended up trapping Ahmet inside him, and then he ended up in kind of an institution like they were in.
Yeah, and then Khonshu saw to it that he was killed, because that's what Khonshu wanted.
Yep, Khonshu gets what Khonshu wants.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we found out, that scene was real revealing because we found out how devious and, you know, how manipulative Khonshu really is.
You think Khonshu's like new threads?
Yes.
And he's in like a Bentley or something like
yeah. Which, did you see license plate? It's Inspector.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good. Seeing Jake at the end, like at first, like I was disappointed we didn't get Jake Lockley at all, but seeing him at the end, I hope there's more because Mark and Steven still don't know. Like, they got an inkling. Obviously, they wake up and stuff's happened and neither of them can account for it. So they got an inkling, but they still don't really know about Jake. And I would love to see what happens when they do meet Jake for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll for sure get more Moon Knight. The question is, are we going to get more Moon Knight the show?
Right.
I think we'll get more Moon Knight. It's just a matter of he might show up in other things.
Yeah, but him showing up in other things doesn't necessarily provide the opportunity for that moment.
I
just hope we do get that.
Did you know that originally his love interest was supposed to be Echo from the Hawkeye series?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was originally going to be, instead of Layla, it was going to be Echo. They decided against it, and I'm glad they did.
I'm glad they did. That doesn't fit.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit at all. So yeah.
I think they were just trying to kind of make more of a through line for that character, have her show up in more stuff.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it works. I think this worked much better. I'm happy with how this ended. I'm happy with how the whole series ran, and I'd be excited to see more. I'd be more than happy to have more of the show, and I'd definitely be more happy just to have, you know, Moon Knight show up in other things as well. Like, I really hope they do like a Midnight Suns movie.
Oh, same, for sure. Yeah, I really hope they do something with Midnight Suns.
Yeah. But that's it for Moon Knight. Next week, we are going to be doing The Batman. Finally, we're going to be covering The Batman.
Yes.
Will is vengeance.
Yes.
I am the knight. But until then, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page, our SoundCloud page. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. There you can find, you know, within a container story for one of our podcast episodes, you'll be able to find links to kind of all of our social platforms, all that stuff. Anything you'd need would be within that. You'd be able to find it pretty quickly. So check all of that out and send us a comment. You know, through Twitter is probably the easiest way to reach us. Like I said earlier, tell us what your favorite flavor of Mountain Dew is and what you thought of Flaming Hot Mountain Dew if you've had it, or just anything related to anything we discussed in this episode, in previous episodes, or stuff we might be discussing in future episodes. Send us your comments about the Batman and we might read them on the show where we discuss the Batman. So get in touch with us that way if you want to. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the On-Screen Podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.